NASCAR in the 1970s was ruled by monstrous V8 engines. That dominance ended when one renegade engineer turbocharged a humble Chevy 292 truck engine, exploding its output from a mere 165 to over 450 horsepower. Smokey Yunick's creation didn't just challenge the old guard, it threatened to rewrite racing history. But what did NASCAR see that made them scramble to shut him down? And why did this banned experiment echo for decades? The Chevrolet 292 Inline 6 was never meant to see the high banks of Daytona or the punishing miles of NASCAR's fastest ovals. Born in the mid-1960s, the 292 was a workhorse, designed for farm trucks, delivery rigs, and industrial haulers. Its long, heavy crankshaft sat on 7 main bearings, giving it the kind of durability that mattered more for hauling hay than chasing checkered flags. In factory trim, the 292 made just 165 horsepower. That number barely registered in the world of stock car racing, where V8s routinely topped 350 or even 400 horsepower straight from the showroom floor. The engine's strength was its low-end grunt, a broad, flat torque curve that made it perfect for lugging loads, not for sprinting down the backstretch at 180 miles per hour. Race teams and engine builders dismissed the 292 as a curiosity, if they noticed it at all. Its long stroke and tall deck height made it heavy and awkward to fit under the hoods of sleek stock cars. The inline 6 layout, narrower but taller than a V8, did not match the expectations or the traditions of American racing. The engine's reputation was all utility, no glamour, a reliable companion for delivery drivers, not a contender for the winner's circle. At a time when NASCAR's rulebook and racing culture revolved around big, thundering V8s, the idea of a 6-cylinder competing at the highest level seemed laughable. The 292's factory rating of 165 horsepower put it at a massive disadvantage, not just on paper but in the minds of everyone who cared about speed. It was an engine for the back roads, not the big leagues. To most, the 292 symbolized everything slow, steady, and unremarkable about truck engineering. It was a tool, not a weapon. Yet the same engine, built for endurance, not excitement, would soon become the foundation for one of the most controversial power plants in NASCAR history. No one expected a truck motor to threaten the kings of the sport. But in the hands of an outsider who never cared much for the rules, the 292 was about to become a problem nobody saw coming. Smokey Yunick didn't see a heavy truck engine, he saw untapped potential. In his Daytona Beach shop, the 292's transformation began with a single oversized turbocharger, plumbed to force feed the inline 6-cylinder a hurricane of compressed air. Smokey swapped out the stock pistons for forged versions, strong enough to survive the extra pressure. He dropped the compression ratio slightly, from 8.5 to 1 to 8 to 1, making room for boost without risking catastrophic detonation. The fuel system was rebuilt. A pressurized blow through carburetor setup sealed tight to keep the air-fuel mixture from blowing out past the gaskets. Every piece of the ignition system was upgraded. A hotter coil, colder plugs, and a custom distributor curve that retarded timing under boost, all to keep the engine from melting itself at full throttle. On the dyno, the numbers were almost unbelievable for the era. The stock 292 had managed just 165 horsepower. Smokey's turbocharged version spun the dial past 450 horsepower, sometimes even touching 500, depending on boost. The torque curve was even more impressive, broad, flat, and relentless thanks to the engine's long stroke and forced induction. Where a V8 engine's power might peak and drop, the Turbo 6 pulled hard from low revs all the way to redline. The sound was different too. Instead of the familiar V8 rumble, the 292 whistled and hissed. The turbos spool up and blow off unmistakable above the roar of the exhaust. Cooling became a battle of its own. Smokey added a massive radiator, a high-flow water pump, and an oil cooler dedicated just to the turbo. Exhaust headers were wrapped to keep heat away from sensitive parts, and a primitive air-to-air intercooler helped keep intake temperatures in check. Every change was deliberate, each a step closer to reliability at racing speeds. With these modifications, the 292 wasn't just keeping up with the V8 engines, it was threatening to leave them behind. The engine's torque advantage gave it explosive acceleration out of corners, and the improved fuel efficiency meant fewer pit stops over a long race. For the first time, NASCAR's V8 establishment had a real problem. A turbocharged 6-cylinder built for trucks now making more power than almost anything else in the field. Smokey Yunick had turned a punchline into a powerhouse, and everyone in the garage was paying attention. When Smokey Yunick's turbocharged Chevy 292 rolled into qualifying, it didn't just turn heads, it sent a jolt through the entire garage. The usual V8 thunder was interrupted by the sharp whistle of the turbo, followed by lap times that left even the most seasoned crew chiefs squinting at their stopwatches. On that day, the 292 posted laps within tenths of the top V8 engines with nearly 150 more cubic inches and decades of development behind them. The numbers on the board weren't a fluke. Smokey's car matched the best, sometimes even edging ahead, all while running a 6-cylinder built from truck parts. NASCAR officials wasted no time. The car was pulled aside for a full inspection. Every rulebook line was checked, every bolt scrutinized. The turbo setup, the block casting, the fuel system, each detail was measured against the regulations. When the inspection was over, the verdict was clear: legal. The 292 passed, fair and square. There was no secret trick, no hidden loophole, just raw engineering and a willingness to try what others wouldn't. The reaction from rival teams was immediate and loud. One crew spokesman said, "If that thing's legal, we're all in trouble. That's not racing, that's science fiction." The V8 loyalists, some with factory backing, filed formal protests and demanded answers. How could a 6-cylinder, with a turbo no less, threaten the established order? The answer was on the stopwatch and the dyno: 450 horsepower, relentless torque, and fuel economy that meant fewer pit stops. Rumors spread across the infield. Was NASCAR really going to let a turbocharged truck engine run with the big blocks? The garage was split. Some admired the audacity, others wanted it gone. But for a brief moment, Smokey's 292 wasn't just competitive, it was proof that the impossible could happen, and that the old rules might not be enough to keep it from happening again. NASCAR's response came not with a disqualification, but with a rulebook. Almost overnight, the competition committee issued a bulletin that rewrote the math for every turbocharged engine in the sport. The new formula was simple: multiply the actual displacement by 1.7. For Smokey's 292 cubic inch turbo, that meant an official rating of 496 cubic inches, far above NASCAR's 427 cubic inch limit. No turbocharged engine, no matter how it was built, could meet the new standard. The rule didn't just move the goalposts, it locked the gate and threw away the key. The timing wasn't lost on anyone in the garage. Smokey's engine had passed every inspection. It had run legal laps, posted legal times, and drawn legal fuel. The only thing it broke was tradition. But the 1.7 multiplier made tradition into law. With a single bulletin, NASCAR closed the door on forced induction. Not just for Smokey, but for every team with ideas that didn't fit the V8 mold. NASCAR senior officials explained the move as a matter of competitive balance. They pointed to the need for parity, for protecting the character of the sport. Privately, manufacturers pressured the sanctioning body. Nobody wanted to see a truck engine, turbocharged or not, embarrass the flagship V8 engines they spent millions to promote. The multiplier rule didn't just end Smokey's experiment, it sent a message to every innovator watching from the sidelines. In Daytona Beach, the turbocharged 292 cubic inch engine was rolled back into Smokey's shop, never to race under NASCAR's banner again. The power of the stopwatch had been trumped by the power of the rulebook. Innovation still meets resistance when it threatens the status quo. Today, turbocharged engines dominate racing worldwide, while NASCAR only embraced them decades later. The lesson is clear: progress waits for no rulebook. The real race is not on the track, it is between yesterday's limits and tomorrow's possibilities.